Clarence, there's so many different groups of people who have been impacted so severely by COVID. And, I really think about some of the elderly and then some of the young people. And I lost my dad just a little over a year ago. And the year before I lost him, he had to go into a care facility and with dementia and stuff like that. And fortunately, I mean, I hate to say this, but fortunately he passed before COVID. And the thought of, people in these facilities, my dad being in that facility and not being able to go see him, not being able to, communicate with him, and him not understanding what was going on would have just been devastating. And then I think about some of these young kids, particularly like people who are just, we talked earlier about college, people just starting their freshman year in college or their senior year in college or their senior year in high school, and not being able to go out and get those connections. And, to me, every year in college was such a different experience. And freshman year was such a crazy experience, but it's one everybody, it's one of the reasons you want people to go to college. You really learn a lot, and you move to this virtual world, and they're just missing out on so much. And it's heartbreaking.
Yeah. And I agree with that. Because, one of the things that we are pushing at NLC, and Tyler is pushing, is this whole concept of being connected and having connected communities, creating vibrant and safer communities. And I have to tell you that COVID has had an impact on our city leaders in trying to move their cities in that way. And I know Tyler has talked about, having creating a vision around promoting connected communities. I know, as you and I talked and we learned about each other, we learned that everything that we've done in the last 7 or 8 months because of COVID has impacted the world and our own lives. How has that pushed Tyler Tech? And tell me more about what this means and how you guys are helping to build these vibrant and safer communities.
Yeah, absolutely, Clarence. And actually, thanks for the opportunity to talk about this vision of ours. And I do want to spend a little time talking about our vision of connected communities, because it's, it's not something that everybody in the NLC may not have heard of it or understand it. So I'd like to explain that a little bit.
And I do think, Lynn, why you think it's important, because I've gotten to know you a little bit here over these conversations, and I must say that you have a big heart. And I can tell by how you shared some of your personal feelings and how it builds what Tyler Tech is committed to.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I appreciate that as well, Clarence. As you know, Clarence, and what a lot of the public doesn't understand is that a lot of local government really operates essentially in a silo. People don't understand that. They see these TV shows and they think local government works in a certain way. And really there's really no connection between, different departments and agencies within a single jurisdiction. For example, take the finance office. It's really not connected digitally to the tax office. And the tax office isn't really connected digitally to the permitting office. Similarly, there's not a lot of connection between similar departments, but across different jurisdictions. So for example, when I drove into the office today, I passed through 2 different counties and 3 different cities, but that was all in just a 20-minute drive. For example, the public safety office of each of those counties, each city I passed, they're not really connected. And that's really where our vision at Tyler of connected communities comes in. And so, at a high level, I'd say it's about using technology to connect data, people, and processes across these agencies and across geographic boundaries. And the goal is to make communities safer, more transparent, and more responsive. And really, so that, again, there's 3 parts to this vision, and I kind of touched on a couple of them, but the first, again, is it's connecting these shared processes across departments and agencies within a single jurisdiction. So, what does that mean? For example, imagine a scenario or a world where when someone files for a building permit, it automatically triggers a building inspection, and that automatically triggers a new appraisal. all by the simple fact of filing one permit. Today that's not the way it works. I mean, it's disjointed, and it could take a long time between a building permit application and someone sends an appraiser out there to think about trying to reappraise the property. So many critical processes within a single local government agency are really part of a series of processes in another agency. And when those become more integrated, these agencies work together better and automatically, and they really keep the necessary progression of events moving forward, become more efficient. Again, the second part of this vision is, again, creating the connections that span geographic boundaries. A local government doesn't operate in a silo. We live in communities. And, a single county may have 6, 7 different cities within it. And you may live in a region where there's 3 counties and 20 cities. And getting these connections across these various jurisdictions can help create, again, more efficiency. You think about, for example, again, Dallas County probably has, 6 or 7 different cities. I passed a few on the way. If somebody pulls somebody over and they've got an arrest warrant in the city next door, but not in this city, they may not know that, and they may let that person go. And so that's behind sort of connecting that. And then really the last piece, and I think this is really important about how we see government operating in the future. We've talked about mobility, we've talked about e-solutions, but it's really about getting citizen engagement as well. And so it's not just connecting those departments within a jurisdiction, and then you go and say we want to connect similar departments across jurisdictions, but how do we reach out and engage our citizens? And because we believe that really engaged citizens really make stronger communities. What we're doing is helping the local governments really enable those citizens to access services, conduct civic business through a single constituent portal, allowing them to pay bills, for example, view things like business license permits, court information, all in one place. That's our vision. It's a pretty exciting vision. It's a big vision, right? I mean, this is not something that's going to happen overnight. But what's great about Tyler, and what gets me excited these days to come into work, is that we are the only company in this space that can really execute on this vision. And the reason I say that is because we're the only company that has a leading solution in all of these major vertical applications that serve the local government, whether it's finance or tax or civic services like permanent licensing or public safety, courts, probation, supervision, and of course our Socrata Data and Insights platform, which helps tie it all together. So the fact that we have all these leading solutions, we have Socrata Data Insights, it puts us in a unique position to actually start to bring these connections together.
Now, I mean, I think that coordination and connection all together is going to be really important. One of the things I was looking at NLC in terms of our corporate vision before COVID-19 was thinking about a plan for 2030 for the organization. And then COVID-19 hit. And basically, you, Tyler, my company, association, we had to leapfrog to 2030 almost. I mean, remote work, virtual meetings, virtual conferences. And so I've been nervous about that connectivity in our cities, but also connectivity within organizations. How have you made sure the culture and connectivity of Tyler remain sustainable and coordinated?
Yeah, so there are a couple questions in there, and I think when you think about connectivity and we think about connecting all these different processes and agencies, in some sense, a lot of our topics today have really segued one into the other.
Yeah.
And I think, this vision is really, you can really only achieve this vision to its fullest once everybody has moved to the cloud. So as we move to the cloud, that connectivity becomes that much easier. The things around, concern around connectivity and security, those start going away when you're up in the cloud. We talked earlier about the benefits of being in the cloud. And so, I think at the core of this is it's technology. It's ever improving and evolving technology. We at Tyler, we talk about this, but over since the beginning of 2018, we've invested over $220 million in new product R&D, which is, expanding the functionality of our existing products, creating new products to anticipate those needs of our clients, what their needs going to be in 2030, but also modernizing and improving our products, looking at create solutions. I talked earlier about some of these economic recovery solutions. These are the things that we're trying to look ahead and think through, but at the same time, modernizing and moving all of our solutions where they operate more efficiently in the cloud, and to where when we do these connections, it's going to be in a very secure way.
So, well, thank you for that. Let me ask you a question, and it's one that's applicable to today and what municipal leaders are dealing with. Across America, dealing with racial protests, demands from their residents for actions to address those disparities in education, law enforcement, healthcare, in so many areas. And you talked a little bit earlier about data, and what has happened is this unveiling of some of these disparities, and it's all based on data and the gaps in education, the gaps in unemployment, healthcare, all of those things. In what ways can technology itself help mayors, council members, our city, towns, and villages improve equity? Because again, we get back to your point, data. We know the disparities. What can they do?
No, that's a good question, Clarence, and you're right. It's something that continues to be, really more relevant with every passing day. And I do step back, and I think first of all, when you start thinking about tackling some of these larger societal issues, and to your point right there, I would just echo that, which is, I think one of the most important things you need first to address these issues is meaningful data. We talked about the power and importance of getting meaningful data, but it's not just the data, but getting in a way that leaders can get that data and really make better informed decisions. Again, that's one of our cornerstones of connected communities. And, today you really can't get to all the data that exists and get it into meaningful formats, that help leaders make better decisions at any level, whether it's local, state, or federal, without technology. Our Socrata Data and Insight platform, that's what's so unique about it, is it can overlay any system that's running in a local government, preferably a Tyler system, but we do recognize there are other systems that aren't Tyler systems, and it can pull data from any of those disparate systems and put it in a way that you can start actually seeing and making meaningful decisions about it. As we look forward and we think about all the existing and the new challenges facing cities today, the things that you were talking about, technology is part of the solution, but it's not the sole solution, right? Really, the policy changes are the solutions. And, successful policies are almost nearly impossible to implement, however, without technology behind them. And so, how I view Tyler's role in these times is really, it's as I mentioned earlier, we partner with our clients, and we want to provide the best solutions that allow them to achieve those policy goals. So how some ways that we do that? Some of the things we do just around making local government operate more transparently, more efficiently. We've talked about that. Helping them reinforce more fair and equitable procedures. Some examples of that on the justice side, we've created a lot of tools that have actually expanded access to justice. Things like virtual courtrooms, I mentioned that earlier. ODR, which is online dispute resolution, which opens up the courts it opens up processes to more people. We've got a whole set of tools around self-represented litigants where, people who can't afford a lawyer can still get access to courts. These tools incorporate our data and insights. And the one thing that we are careful about that we don't do with any of our justice solutions is, we don't produce and we won't sell any product that acts on predictive or assertive data assumptions. Data is important. It's important to help make those policies, and then you've got to enact the right tools and technology to do so. And that's what we want to do. We want to be your partner. We want to be the local government's partner to help them achieve their goals.
No, I think that is very helpful, because as we look at our country and looking at how city leaders need accurate information in order to make decisions, there's no question technology, data, and information is going to help with that. And I think, one of the things that you've probably also talked about is that whole word of transparency and trust. that is built through the systems. Lynn, this has really been great. I mean, anything else you'd like to share with our members that I did not ask you about? That is one of those things like, gosh, I wish I would have said that.
Well, you know, Clarence, you said after the first segment that we could have gone on forever, so we probably could have gone on each of these a lot deeper. But no, I just really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and have the opportunity to speak, you know, in front of your constituents. You know, we're a good partner of NLC. We're good partners with many of those NLC members, and you know, as I said earlier, you know, we view our role as the partner to the local government community, and we've been here for 25 years, and we're going to be here another 25 plus years after this. So really enjoy the time, and thanks so much. It's great to know you.
Well, Lynn, thank you. And I look forward to us someday sitting down talking a little bit more about your journey to being president and CEO of Tyler, because it's a great story where you came from DC and went back to Texas and has made an impact. But you know, the other thing that's important to NLC is to get corporate partners that have a mission and a passion about what they do that's going to make our communities better. And I can tell by talking to you and getting to know you that it's not just a product that Tyler Tech is providing or a solution. It's your commitment through your heart that you want to make our country better, and you want to make cities, towns, and villages better. So we look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you for your support of City Summit 2020, our first ever historical virtual conference. And you guys have been a significant part of that. So my much appreciation from the National League of Cities.
Thanks again, Clarence. Really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Lynn. Look forward to seeing you again.